From a sudden delay and the potential void of no new trailer until months later, to screenshots, story details, characters, and yes, trailer 2 out of the blue. The past few days have been a roller coaster for Grand Theft Auto 6 fans. Rockstar Games hasn't revealed proper, extensive gameplay, but the latest trailer finally shines a light on what's happening in the next big sequel. Jason's name is finally confirmed, as his backstory and Lucia's are finally detailed. A score going wrong is the backdrop for their escapades across the fictitious Leonida as they encounter many other characters and locales beyond the Vice City that we know and love. There's still a lot to pull back the curtain on, like the scale of the open world, especially after previous rumors said it would be moderately sized and expand post-launch. The gunplay, the driving, and everything we can expect to do in Leonida. The various screenshots released on the game's official website offer plenty of clues, like the different kinds of weaponry and vehicles, cops pursuing the player in the wetlands using airboats, a rooftop basketball court, which means it's even more likely an optional activity than ever, underwater exploration, and potentially poaching. However, even if it's just a small sample size compared to the behemoth of the full experience, this could very well be the most immersive Grand Theft Auto in the series yet, and that's no small feat considering Rockstar's track record. Last year, we wrote about how realistic is too realistic for such a title due to the developer's penchant for pushing limits in GTA 5 and Red Dead Redemption 2, and seeking to go further beyond in GTA 6.
We ain't got no problems with you, sir. Nor you with us. But if you want to start one, there's going to be a lot of folks dead in this room before it's done.
Leaving aside the development resources necessary and whether it's sustainable in the long term, it also brought up questions on how it would connect to players if the fine line between realism and tedium was crossed. However, the recent trailer and screenshots showcase how Rockstar isn't just going for immersion, it's also targeting the right amount. The first aspect that is most obvious is the environmental design. Leonida is inspired by Florida, and Vice City leans close to Miami, with its modern-day version chock full of hotels, restaurants, beaches, and high-rises. You can spot the Sahara Arena, which is a clear homage to the Casilla Center. But the district is also dotted by buildings like the Vice City Arts Center, which could be visually inspired by the Adrian Arsht Center. Traversing the streets highlights overpasses with Art Deco on their pillars. The Leonida Keys, a clear blue archipelago, is teeming with various luxury boats and NPCs, each unique and individually detailed. Of course, even the dingier parts are noteworthy. Note the change in watercolor in the grass rivers combined with numerous different kinds of vegetation, not to mention the plentiful gators. The atmosphere shifts once more when venturing to Ambrosia. It's a long way from luxury, with the Allied Crystal Sugar Refinery spewing smoke, though which real-world industrial park it resembles is difficult to determine, especially since Florida has several. Then there's Mount Calaga National Park, a site for hunting, fishing, and off-road racing. One screenshot shows a duo venturing into the woods to hunt, which highlights the tall grass and extensive shrubbery. Another showcases a mountain lion getting ready to pounce on an unsuspecting deer with leaves on the water, which deftly reflects them. If you look even closer, you'll notice a bit of dirt on the lion's shoulder and different coloration for its limbs and underbody due to being drenched from the water. A clearer example of the reflection quality is seen in the image of a person kayaking through a stream, with the water realistically rippling based on the oar's movement. One particular detail that I like is the flood gauge. It's heavily discolored at the 2 feet mark and slightly less so at 3 feet, a subtle way to indicate which is more common. The fading paint on the lettering and numbers is also a nice touch. Perhaps the most impressive part of all this visual fidelity is just how alive the environments feel. It starts with the little touches, like the ducks in the water outside of a restaurant on the grass rivers. However, the human characters are undoubtedly the highlight, with their models full of even more detail and realism than ever. Jason is a great example. Not only can you make out individual strands of hair on his arms, but in the opening scene of the trailer, sweat glistens realistically on his chest. Trails of it are also visible, and you can even see the sunburn on his neck, perhaps reflecting the area which his cap couldn't protect. Lucia is a great example of how much the hair details and physics have evolved. There's a waviness and a bounce to it in certain scenes, but it's only in screenshots which you notice every individual strand. While boxing at the gym, a single strand is stuck to her forehead due to sweat. However, while sitting on a motorcycle, the strands are even more defined and fall freely. A stark contrast to a tenser scene where she's waiting behind a door with a subtle mess of them on her features. The skin textures for all the characters are also nothing to scoff at. Jason's forehead wrinkles are a stark contrast to Brian Heater's complexion. You also have to give credit where it's due to the lighting and the shadows. The ambient occlusion on display is still phenomenal, and seeing the different colored light sources realistically illuminating Jason in one screenshot where he's holding an assault rifle really underscores the engine's advancements. The same goes for the particles, whether it's sweat violently emitting from Lucia's arm on hitting a punching bag or the mud flying up in another image with the multitude of dirt bikes. On another note, the realistic smudging of the vehicles and characters is the cherry on top and reinforces the rough and tumble nature of Mount Calaga. Once again, this is a comparatively small sample size when you consider how Grand Theft Auto 6 could end up being. The sheer number of characters in the world, each immaculately detailed with bespoke animations, is already off the charts.
Jason Duval.
I think you heard before.
You might have.
The protagonists and supporting cast all look true to life, but more importantly, they look like they've spent more than their fair share of time in Leonida. Distinctions between the wealthy and middle class, both in clothing choices and the general upkeep and cleanliness, only serve to further highlight the divide. Perhaps the only real skepticism that one could have is whether this is all really running on the PlayStation 5. Then again, looking back on Red Dead Redemption 2 when it first launched, it was almost difficult to believe that this was running on the PS4.
Would you just look around you? This world has its consolations.
Gentlemen, I'm going to head into the local town and, see if I can strike up a little business.
Of course, Herr Strauss. I prefer robbing banks to usury.
If Rockstar needed more time to polish all of this, especially on such an immense scale, then the delay isn't just understandable. I think it's welcome. Grand Theft Auto 6 launches on May 26, 2026 for Xbox Series X and S and PS5. There's still plenty of time and much more to see, and we're eager to see how different the gameplay looks, but it's shaping up to be the defining game of 2026, in case there was any doubt. And that'll be about it for this one. If you guys like what we're doing at GamingBolt, please consider subscribing to our channel, and I'll see you guys on the next video.